それでいいんだ、メビウス。人間を愛するには人間を知らなければいけない。人間の強さも弱さも美しさも醜さも、その両方を知らなければお前はこの星を愛することはできない。
一つ、腹ペコのまま学校に行かぬこと。一つ、天気のいい日に布団を干すこと。一つ、道を歩くときは車に気をつけること。一つ、
他人の力を頼りにしないこと。
一つ、土の上を裸足で走り回って遊ぶこと。驚いたな。知ってるやつがいたなんて。俺の上司の口癖だぜ。ちっちゃい頃に友達に教わったんだと。なんでもウルトラマンが残した言葉らしいんだけどな。
In the grand pantheon of Ultraman heroes, there's one in particular I find again and again to be up there as one of my favorites. And not only a favorite, since he's one that I find to be relatable, resilient, and all around a timeless hero. A protagonist that set the tone for future Ultraman heroes, and even other tokusatsu heroes. A protagonist who, compared to his two predecessors, was the first civilian to become an Ultraman. His name rings from the Ultra Star to Earth. You know his voice from the 5 Ultra Oaths to being one of the rare heroes to sing his show's own theme songs, too, I might add. He taught us that to love humans, you must get to know them. Their strength, their weakness, their beauty, their ugliness. He bonded with the Jack of all trades, the master monster slayer Ultraman Jack, and became the first human to leave Earth with Ultraman. His name is Hideki Go, played by the late, great Jiro Dan. This is a tribute to Jiro Dan himself. For this video, I want to highlight some of my favorite Return of Ultraman episodes to discuss stories of Go that still ring in my mind, even after finishing Return of Ultraman all the way back in about 2021. More so as in connecting small moments that resonate to me. And while I can mostly only show images due to copyright, I like to think of my Ultraman videos as, say, behind-the-scenes bonus featurettes you'd find on DVDs back in the day, if the DVDs in the US had some of these, bonuses. So join me as we celebrate 60 years of the Ultraman franchise and showcase our love for Jiro Dan's Hideki Go. Boom! Hey there. So, talk more about Hideki Go and legacy of Jiro Dan, what he set for the franchise with his Ultraman Jack. We're ahead and set up a little diorama for you guys. We got this little movable Ultraman Jack figure, a little Creek release or Home Media Alliance release, a little Funko, some little Bandais, and some other sets with Ultraman Z and Gaigan Duken out here. But Return Ultraman. Got my little makeshift last minute matte uniform, just kind of celebrate this and overall 60 years Ultraman. But let's start with the journey of Hideki Go. One of my favorite episodes, frankly, is just the first one, directed by Ishiro Honda. I think it's called All Monsters Attack. Might be another reference to Honda's very own All Monsters Attack God's Love film, but just kind of go through the episodes. One of my favorite things about this is just the impact. As I said earlier, we get to see a civilian for the first time become an Ultraman. Now, of course, Shin Hayata was technically a civilian, but he was part of the SSSP, and then Dan Moriboshi was the persona that Ultra 7 created after he saw that one guy working in the mines to protect people. But, his whole Moriboshi identity was in the Ultra Guard. But with Hideki Go, he was, a race car driver and partly a mechanic. He just loved the idea of racing cars. And that was his whole civilian life with the Sakata family, with Ken Sakata being his older brother, mentor figure. And it's just a cool idea to kind of ground him as somebody of his own life outside of Matt, outside of the strike team, and outside of Ultraman before he becomes Ultraman Jack. And he also has a girlfriend, Aki, and so her older brother becomes kind of a mentor figure to Go, that being Kin. Then those two, Kin and Aki, have their youngest brother, Jiro, who's probably named after Jiro Dan, now that I think about it. And Jiro just looks up to Go. So it has this dynamic with the three of them, these three different relationships, but these people took him in and they love him. And that whole idea of Go having his own life is so crucial that they really get the root for him. And by the time he saves a kid and a puppy from a destroyed building from a kaiju attack, and then Jack sees his heroic sacrifice where Go dies saving this kid and puppy, then he decides to bond with them and let Go live again. But before that even happens, we see Go in the hospital on death's door, and we see Aki, we see Ken, we see Jiro, and eventually the whole Matt crew with the first captain, Captain Kato, that saw this. And all these come together. Really emotional first episode, but real standout that sets the tone for a bit more of a dour, a bit more of a malaise, a bit more of a mellow, or just all around sorrow with a purpose feel that I can describe Return Ultraman. And of course, Jack sees that and decides to bond with them as they fight against the third wave of kaiju attacks. All that is a bunch, but noticeably with this year's 60th anniversary show, Ultraman Tio, what is the first thing he does? It's heroics. Tio, or Ibuki, saves a kid and a puppy. Who did it first? Hideki Go and Ultraman Jack. So, again, let's talk about the impact of this show. Obviously, it still rings true to even today in the big 2026 with, Ultraman Tio. So that really stuck out to me, and as I was, prepping this video and that first episode Tio came out, I was happy to notice that connection. Thank you, Super Rob Productions. But next episode I want to talk about is kind of a two-parter, right? First you have obviously the Gudon. I got Gudon right here, Gudon and Twin Tail two-parter. Reason I'm talking about this is we have a little bit of Go's personal life being attacked just by happenstance by these two ancient kaiju, that being his girlfriend Aki, who's out at the mall shopping, and then she's there when the underground monsters attack. She gets injured, her friends put into a coma, and early on in the show we get like a reverse of the first episode where Go was in the hospital and Aki was visiting him. She was terrified she was going to lose him, and now it's flipped that Go was terrified he's going to lose Aki. As we know later in the series, sadly that becomes true due to, actors having different schedules, and of course the goddamn alien Knuckle appearing. But I talked about that whole storyline a few years ago. Check it out. My 1971 analysis of how Godzilla and Ultraman both balanced darkness in 1971. But so a Gudon Twin Tail episode, we get that. We get to see how Go truly comes to play to team up with Matt as Matt helps him with this big assault. We get probably the first real defeat of Ultraman Jack at the hands of these two monsters. But overall, these two-part episodes help show how civilian life was damaged, Go's own personal life was attacked by these kaiju, and in addition, how he gets to grow with Matt after a prior defeat. So good stuff. That's episodes about 5 and 6. And in relation to that, I do want to back up a little bit with episode 4 with King Saurus III. Now, I like King Saurus a lot. I think he's just a cool, quadrupedal kaiju with cool energy attacks too. But, Ultraman, Jack, and Go both have to learn how to learn a new fighting skill, that being one of their Ultraman flying kicks in the sky. It's a good training episode. You get Go in the mountains holding a log, and, this could be a present to both Ace, Kotaro, Taro, and then eventually Ultraman Leo, all having to go the actual training episodes. This is the thing. Another impact of Return Ultraman, in particular Hideki Go, is an Ultra host having to train to learn a new move to defeat a monster. Good stuff, and it happens early on in the season. Next, I do want to jump ahead a little bit because we got, I'm just kind of jumping around, but to episode 10 and 11. Now, episodes 10 and 11, surprisingly, are, they're back-to-back. But number 10, Dinosaur Detonation Order. I like this episode. It's kind of a homage to the Bozo episode from the original Ultraman. I say it because it's about kids not wanting a monster to get hurt, to die. And earlier on in the season for this show, I really like that they had this storyline. It gives another layer of depth to not only Ultraman Jack being, a fighter full of heart, but Hideki Go listening to the cries of kids not wanting to murder a monster that they felt bad for in front of them. That being Stegon. He's kind of like another, somehow he looks like King of Saurus if you think about it, because he's, a sauropod and dinosaur and kaiju, but Stegon's nice. just because a bunch of, explosions are happening in local mines, a local, economy causes this monster to appear. But the thing is, with Jiro and his kids at school talking about Toho kaiju like Rodan and Godzilla, that's always nice. I love that little connection. I talk about it in one of my older videos. But here, again, we got Hideki Go being an older brother figure to Jiro, and the fact that he's there with Matt throughout this whole episode, as an older brother myself, it pulls the heartstrings that Jiro did not want Ultraman Jack to kill Stegon, the kaiju. And so, as I said, we pull a little of a Seaboza reference, and Go and Jack lift Stegon up and take him to the stars to live on a peaceful planet. And he becomes a star, so to speak, just like, in a way it's a reference to Seabozo being a skeleton kaiju and one that you feel bad for, but it's also a reference to Gavadon from the original Ultraman, where just like in that storyline, kids didn't want this monster to be hurt, so Ultraman let him live in the stars on a happy planet to be peaceful. I like it. Good stuff. Next up, this episode 11, Poison Gas Monster appears. Oh, this one's interesting. We get a little bit of an episode about Kishida. And, it turns out with his past in World War II, I think his father developed chemical weapons for the Imperial Army. In a way, it's about Matt fighting the sins of the past. And ultimately, the thing about all three early Ultraman shows and other Showa ones after it, they tackle issues pretty serious. And I think it says a lot about these guys, about the creatives, what they're commenting on, with the Samurai Legacy and other creatives in the company trying to tell a story about. I like that. Again, they fight this poison monster. What was the name? Moanazon. Again, he kind of like these frills, these spikes, and he spews a yellow chemical weapon because he ate one of the capsules. Again, kind of a straightforward episode, but it lets a different member of Matt take the spotlight, and I like that Go gets to kind of comfort Kishida, kind of help him get through his own personal family sins, his own, kind of generational trauma, so to speak. Just kind of summing it up, but again, we get to see a cool moment of both Go and Jack learning how to adapt, and in the fight, Jack decides, he kind of runs through his mind how the fight could go if, this monster kind of kept spewing poison gas. And I think even earlier, if memory serves me right, that happened episode 8 also, where they fight the monster that was a ticking time bomb, and Go kind of goes through to see how he can destroy this monster without causing a giant explosion. Again, episode 8 and episode 11, I think, kind of go hand in hand with a monster that is very dangerous just by simply existing. So jump ahead a little bit, obviously, or one of my favorites we have to be episode 13 and 14, the Sea Mons and Sea Gorth two-parter, just because Jack does something incredibly cool, just a pure physical ability where he stops a tsunami from destroying a city. Like, again, if memory serves me right, all these are before we get Ultra 7 giving Jack the iconic Ultra bracelet, and just seeing Jack's pure physical might that separates him from the original Ultraman is another thing I love. It's why Jack's one of my favorites. He has his own moveset compared to the first Ultraman. So some of my other favorites, it's kind of like I'm reading a book, but I have to be episode 27. Namely, because Go helps just a random boxer he finds training, Saburo. And Saburo is kind of like not a ditz or not a wimp, but he's just a guy kind of down on his luck. Sports go, especially very physical ones like boxing that relies on, reputation and just your aura. But Saburo is kind of a down on his luck guy, and he just a simple story of Go helping a random guy. That's what I like about Ultraman, helping the random people that are in this world of monsters. And namely, what really set this one apart for me was the slight twist that Saburo was like, oh yeah, I'm trying to, this girl on the bus, I go on the bus, and he's like, I want to ask her out. And Go's like, sure, gives him like kind of a guy pep talk, and he also shows him some of his Ultra Bear moves, like jumping in the air, right? Because Go is like superhuman at this point. And of course, it turns out the girl was known as an Aki, Go's girlfriend. So of course, he doesn't, of course, Saburo realizes that it's Go's girlfriend, so he lets it go. But it's just kind of funny that small world, and just again, little like that drama, but just a random guy and Japan, that this city that Go finds and he meets up with, and he tries to teach him both boxing and other life skills. So again, just a simple story that corroborates a monster who was also, you know, have like these chainsaw boxing hands. And the monster, what was his name? Gronkin, yeah, Gronkin. If I was ever to make a fighting evolution game, I want Gronkin in the cast as kind of a wild card. I mean, again, this guy's got chainsaws, he's cutting up like giant statues. He's kind of a badass, but a great fight with him, Ultraman Jack, that parallels Satoru's own boxing match. And the reason I talk about this episode is because it ends with the little reveal that Satoru realizes that Go is Ultraman. He's Ultraman Jack, and he reveals it by turning around and throwing like one of those Ultraman masks that you see kids wearing on the show over his shoulder. And Go looks at him and just Go smiles like, "Oh, all right, I got you, brother." So a little bro moment I like. That kind of culminates a nice little slice of life story. Next we have to be episode 33. I know I rewatched this recently because the Ultraman channel posted the Ultraman Mebius' sequel episode, and about, you know, from Ultraman Mebius in 2006, that was a sequel to The Monster Tamer and the Boy, just to see how they compare. Now, that's another impact of this. There's so many, I noticed that, you know, going through the Ultraman Mebius catalog, there's quite a few episodes in Mebius, and even future shows like Orb, you know, X and Taiga, that are all references to Return Ultraman. Again, I think it shows the strong inherent quality that was special to Return Ultraman's episode catalog and these one-off, you know, storylines. But nonetheless, Monster Tamer and the Boy, it's a classic for a reason. And by this point, we have it's been, you know, quite a few episodes, the new captain of the team. Another thing, I like that Matt had to switch up in captains with Captain Ibuki. And Ibuki is really truly a father figure to Go, so you kind of have, you know, Ibuki and Ken both being figures to Go, who's also a figure to Jiro. So nice, you know, big, like a whole family dynamic. Basically, the captain appears as a monk and inspires Go to keep fighting to save the city from the monster Morochi, even though he felt betrayed by humanity because they killed this innocent alien in front of an orphaned boy. Again, it's a brutal episode, it's to the point, and it's iconic for a reason, but I want to talk about it today because that little moment resonates to me that Go was just so, like, he really doubted for once that humanity was worth saving at all. And the fact that his own captain was there at the right moment, because he's the one that made sense to be there to inspire Go. Great episode, and of course you get this beautiful, almost an entirely one shot of Ultraman battling Morochi, panning throughout this factory fight. Recent Godzilla short films like the Hedorah one or the Jet Jaguar one have these like oneers that are really nice. It's just nice to see that lineage in terms of tokusatsu, because I never saw this before in terms of tokusatsu. I think this show was like one of the first to do this kind of shot and a fight, and it's nice to see other tokusatsu media reference this, at least in terms of visual spectacle, while also having a nice story that is still resonant to this day. And when we got to Ultraman Mebius, the fact that we got to see some kind of reconciliation, some kind of, you know, the human kids of a new generation just giving a band-aid to the injured son of the alien in this episode. You know, I'm trying to remember what they're called. I think it's Zeren or Zelen, depending on the translation, but that's nice, you know, the fact that there's some kind of, not apology, but kind of acceptance and trying to you need more of a reconciliation than just an apology in life when it comes to traumatic events of different cultures and wars. And I think that's a nice message that the Ultraman franchise was able to touch upon when we got to Mebius being a sequel to Jack's episodes. Now, to jump ahead a bit, I do want to talk about the Prisma episode, because we get a nice little moment between Go and Ken, you know, Ken Sakata helping Go in his own investigation against this Prisma monster. Might be a homage to Bolton, the meteor guy from the first Ultraman episode, but the first Ultraman show. But again, Prisma is a bit more of a, it's not quite as, you know, atmospheric or surreal as it probably could have been, but it's still a cool episode of a unique stationary monster. And what, you know, I guess another weakness to Ultras is, of course, you know, like reality warping stuff, or if you're a monster that takes in and captures light, because Ultras are mostly made of light, and, you know, figuratively and literally. And that's kind of a cool thing, because Go had to realize that they go into the monster to defeat it. And the episode ends with him, bursting out of Prisma, defeating it. He goes back to being Go, and he's like laying on the baseball field, I think. And he's like, oh, wow, we did it. Kind of a battle against Prisma that was hanging by the edge of your teeth, the skin of your teeth, and all in all, really good. Just another episode I wanted to highlight. There's many more I can highlight, but I always think about that Prisma one for this investigative elements and just how much it was a narrow fight for Ultraman in general. Now let's jump ahead a little bit as we wrap up this video. I've talked about the Ultraman Dies at Sunset storyline and a video from a couple of years ago. You get a nice monster in episode 42 that was apparently trying to look the size of a mountain. That's another cool one, but to cap up this this video celebrating Jiro Dan, I want to talk about where was it? It was episode. So next one I'm going to talk about cap this video is one that stuck out to me. It's towards the tail end of the series. That'd be episode 49. Matt is the name of Space Warriors, depending on the translation. But I like this one. You get to see another teamwork between Matt, Go, and Ultraman, but also because there's another episode of Friendly Alien. That being, let's see, Alien, again, it's hard to pronounce some of these aliens. Mistealer? They kind of look like Alien Hipporito and Ace, but you know what I mean. Again, it's a story about refugees, aliens hiding on Earth, disguised as humans. We get a father, Mistealer, and his daughter, Mistealer, two aliens being attacked by a third Mistealer due to a war that was on their planet. Again, kind of a cool, small scale story, a bit more Ultra 7 in terms of aliens, but in terms of the alien half of Return Ultraman, this is one of my favorites. It just stood out to me, having Ultraman team up with this father alien to protect this alien's daughter against an aggressor. It's just a small, simple story, but I like it because just trying to have this evil alien Mistealers trying to take over Matt. But it turns out the good Mistealers have proved their worth of being worthy of having the title of Matt. Right? It's cool having just kind of that bond between Matt and these friendly aliens against this aggressor. And just to kind of top it off, the idea of there's episode 49 just kind of showing a really cool look into how the different stories of aliens can be told in the Ultraman franchise. And to round it off, again, the final episode, episode 51, the 5 Ultra Oaths, is a classic for a reason. I showed footage in the beginning of this video. The fact that the first episode, Ultra Moebius, had a character quoting the lines, because, that lineage. The fact that Ultra Moebius started with a direct homage to how important those oaths are to the generations that exist in the Showa universe just really warmed my heart. And I was happy to see that the Jiro, we don't really see him besides Ultraman Ace, but I would assume that Jiro's character grew up, inspired by Go, and would tell people the 5 Ultra Oaths. And I just like that little part of Ultraman Jack's history, of Go's history, would go into the Ultraman Showa era and inspire people that would eventually become other Strike Team members to battle against monsters and aliens alongside Ultras, in this case, Ultra Moebius. As we saw, I just love that we got to see Hideki Go appear in Ultra Moebius movie, the 6 Ultra Brothers, and it's, kind of a direct sequel, Superior 8 Ultra Brothers, but again, the 6 Ultra Brothers movie, you get the real, and continuity Hideki Go, at least in terms of mythological perspective. Him helping people, being a race car teacher and living a civilian for a while, and then eventually inspiring Moebius to, love humans, even if all their ugliness and their weaknesses, to see the real value of their beauty and their strength. And then, so he appears in Moebius, and then again, Moebius gets the main alt version of Hideki Go, where he got to live a happy life as a normal guy with no Ultraman, and he got to marry Aki and have a daughter with her. Again, nice little things like that. So I like Superior 8 Ultra Brothers. It's a nice little, kind of, not a what if, but like an alt take of people, these Showa characters being happy and being accompanied by some of their co-stars and having either married to some of the girls in the shows and having kids, or having some promo with some of their other, team members and just being happy. I like that. It's nice to see that Jiro Dan, so Hideki Go, got to have a few, happy storylines, and he would later appear in Ultraman Saga in human form alongside 4 of the other Ultra brothers. A really cool moment in the Saga movie. And I think Go's last voiced role as Ultraman Jack would be Ultra Fight Orb, where they fight one of the other Rayonics guys. But again, nice to hear him one last time around 2017 as Jack, not counting, you know, some stage show appearances. And while a few years ago we sadly lost Jiro Dan, or I look back on the Superior 8 Ultra Brothers movie and we see that last shot of all of the Ultras in human forms going on their spaceships and flying to the Land of Light, it's kind of bittersweet now in hindsight, but I think it's also, you know, if you look at that movie in particular, a very meaningful and just emblematic send-off of, you know, where we all hope to be one day, you know, at least in the Land of Light, so to speak, but a nice send-off that even as time has passed and we, you know, lose a lot of actors and creators that we love that gave us these works of art, they're still up there. They're still around us. They're still next to us, giving us inspiration and telling us to keep fighting no matter what. Because for all the beauty in the world, it has to be protected no matter what. And no matter how ugly and bad things can get, don't let that sorrow take away your heart. Instead, let your heart be strengthened by it to keep giving beauty and happiness in the world. That's my takeaway of Hideki Go's legend that was given us by Jiro Dan and Ultraman Jack. So to kind of cap off this video, thank you guys for watching. Let me know in the comments what your favorite memories of Hideki Go are, and if you even maybe, you know, if you're in other Asian countries, maybe you got to meet Jiro Dan at one of these stage shows over the years. Let me know about your memories. I want to hear them. And let me know what your favorite memories are for Ultraman Jack, as we celebrate 60 years of Ultraman and we see the impact of Hideki Go paving the way for Ultras struggling more with their own human personal life, their own hardships, and what makes them an even stronger hero. And, you know, Hideki Go set the path for other Ultra heroes having struggles, personal lives, having to go through training, and just all around becoming a stronger hero through the battles directed at them and what made them strong with the bonds they have with other heroes. So thank you for watching. Thank you, Jiro Dan, for giving us one of the greatest Ultras of all time in terms of the sheer humanity with them. And whenever I think of Ultraman, often the first thing that comes to mind is Hideki Go. So I know it's been a few years since we lost Jiro Dan, but thank you for being an inspiration for not only me, but other people in the Ultraman community and audiences. So happy 60th Ultraman franchise. Thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned, I got more coming. And I'll see you in the next one. For then, let's keep reciting the 5 Ultra Oaths, and looking forward to the Star of Ultra, and I'll see you in the next one. Shwatch!